First Contact's Price. The Kraxan Empire's flagship, Eternal Dominion, emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Sol's system, its crystalline hull refracting starlight like a massive diamond. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge, his four arms crossed behind his back as he studied the holographic display of the third planet, Earth. The humans had no idea they were being watched, their primitive sensors blind to Kraxan stealth technology. Fascinating, Vexthor murmured, his scaled skin shifting colors with interest. They've barely mastered fusion power, yet they've already established colonies on their moon and neighboring planet. Such rapid advancement. His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Zith, approached with a data crystal. Supreme Commander, our analysis of their communications network is complete. They are unusual. Their military forces remain divided by geographical regions they call nations, yet they maintain a unified space presence. Their technology is inconsistent, primitive in some areas, surprisingly advanced in others. Vexthor's eyes narrowed. The Kraxan Empire had encountered many species over their 10,000 years of expansion. All followed predictable patterns of technological development. But humans, they were different. They developed technologies in random, unexpected directions, driven by something the Kraxan had never understood: imagination. Their defenses, Vexthor asked. Minimal by our standards. Their most advanced weapons use magnetic acceleration technology, primitive but clever. Their ships lack proper shields, relying instead on thick armor plating. However, Zith hesitated. Speak freely. Their combat simulations are disturbing. They constantly prepare for wars against themselves, developing countless scenarios and countermeasures. They think in ways we don't understand. Vexthor dismissed the concern with a wave. They are children playing at war. Send the standard First Contact package. Let's see how they respond to real power. The message was transmitted. Greetings from the Kraxan Empire. Demands for submission. Threats of consequences. Standard procedure for incorporating new species into the Empire. The humans' response came within hours, far faster than expected. Message decoded. Supreme Commander, the communications officer announced. They're rejecting our terms. They demand we recognize their sovereignty, and the officer's scales paled. They say if we attempt forced submission, they will respond with unprecedented force. Laughter erupted across the bridge. No species had ever rejected Kraxan terms. It was suicide. Vexthor raised a hand for silence, studying the human response carefully. Their words carried no fear, no awe at Kraxan technology. Instead, they'd radiated something else: determination. Launch a demonstration strike, Vexthor ordered. Their lunar colony. Show them the price of defiance. The Eternal Dominion's main cannon charged, crystal matrices amplifying energy to devastating levels. The beam lanced out, striking the lunar surface. The colony disappeared in a flash of light, leaving nothing but a glowing crater. Message sent, Vexthor said smugly. Now we wait for their surrender. The response came again, faster than before. A single video transmission. On the screen appeared a human female, her expression hard as steel. Behind her stood a massive shape, shrouded in darkness. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force, she said, her voice steady. You just killed 10,000 civilians. We gave you a chance for peace. Now you get to learn why humanity's greatest advances always come during wartime. Project Prometheus is now activated. God help us all. The transmission cut off. Alerts blared across the Eternal Dominion's bridge. Something massive was emerging from behind Earth's moon. A ship unlike anything the Kraxan had ever seen. Its hull seemed to drink in light itself, its edges hard to focus on. It was bigger than any human vessel they detected, bigger than should have been possible with their technology. Impossible, Vexthor whispered. They couldn't have hidden. The human ship's bow opened like a blooming flower of darkness. Energy readings went off the scale. In that moment, Vexthor realized their greatest mistake. They had judged humanity by their visible technology, never imagining what they might have kept hidden. The lesson would cost them dearly. The Ghost Fleet. 3 weeks after first contact, the Kraxan Empire lost contact with their forward base in the Proxima Centauri system. At first, Supreme Commander Vexthor dismissed it as a communications malfunction. Then the reports started flooding in. Supply ships vanishing, patrol fleets going dark, entire battle groups disappearing without a trace. Impossible, Vexthor snarled, studying the tactical display aboard his new flagship. The Eternal Dominion's wreckage still orbited Earth's moon, a constant reminder of their devastating first encounter with Project Prometheus. No human ship could penetrate our defense network undetected. Their technology is too primitive. With respect, Supreme Commander, Zith said, we thought the same about their offensive capabilities. The sub-commander's scales had taken on a permanent grayish tinge since watching the Eternal Dominion's destruction. Our analysts have a theory about these disappearances. The tactical display shifted, showing a pattern of lost ships and bases. The humans aren't using conventional drives, Zith explained. Our quantum sensors detect no engine signatures, no energy emissions, nothing. It's as if their ships don't exist. Everything exists, Vexthor snapped. Everything can be detected. They're simply using some form of stealth technology. No, sir. This is different. We've intercepted transmissions referring to something called quantum ghost drive. Theoretical models suggest they found a way to temporarily shift their ships partially out of normal spacetime. They're not invisible. They're literally phasing between dimensions. Vexthor's scales rippled with disbelief. That's impossible. The energy requirements alone would be astronomical, Zith agreed. Unless. He hesitated. Speak. Unless they've discovered something we haven't. Our scientists have analyzed debris from their lunar colony. There are traces of exotic matter we've never encountered before. What if humans found something in their solar system? Something they kept hidden. Before Vexthor could respond, alarms blared across the bridge. Multiple contacts. The sensor officer shouted. They're just appearing in SIR formation. The tactical display erupted with new signatures. Where there had been empty space moments before, now dozens of human warships materialized. Their hulls seemed to ripple and shift, as if they weren't fully solid. Leading them was the massive form of humanity's first revealed superweapon, Project Prometheus. All ships, open fire. Vexthor commanded. The Kraxan fleet responded instantly, crystal energy beams lancing out at the human vessels. But something impossible happened. The beams passed right through them, hitting nothing but empty space. They're not fully phase shifted, Zith whispered in horror. Our weapons can't touch them. But theirs. Human ships opened fire. Unlike their first encounter, these weren't simple magnetic accelerator weapons. Beams of pure darkness lanced out, somehow darker than the void of space itself. Where they struck Kraxan ships, the crystalline hulls didn't break or explode. They simply ceased to exist, leaving perfect spherical holes through multiple decks. Void lance technology, Zith said, his voice shaking. They'd weaponized the space between spaces. The battle, if it could be called that, lasted less than 10 minutes. The Kraxan fleet never landed a single hit. When it was over, half their ships were gone, transformed into drifting hulks with impossible holes carved through them. The survivors fled in terror, their crews haunted by the sight of ships that weren't quite there, weapons that deleted matter from existence. In the aftermath, Vexthor received another transmission from Admiral Chen. Her expression was grim but determined. "This is only the beginning," she said. "You came to our home, killed our people, and expected us to bow down. Instead, you forced us to reveal technologies we hoped never to use. Technologies we discovered decades ago, but kept hidden, knowing they would change everything. This is your last warning. Leave human space, or we will show you exactly how far we're willing to go to protect our freedom." The transmission ended, leaving Vexthor staring at his shattered fleet. For the first time in his long career, he felt something alien to his species: doubt. The Kraxan Empire had ruled through superior technology for millennia. But these humans, they didn't just have advanced technology. They had impossible technology. And worse, they had the imagination to use it in ways the Kraxan never could have conceived. As his ships limped away from the battlefield, Vexthor realized a terrible truth. The galaxy's balance of power hadn't just shifted, it had shattered, and humanity was just getting started. Counter-strike. Deep within the Kraxan Empire's territory, an entire sector went dark. Not just communications. Every star in the region dimmed simultaneously, their light somehow muted. In his war chamber aboard the fortress world of Krax Prime, Supreme Commander Vexthor watched the darkness spread across the holographic map like an ink stain. "They're not just attacking our ships anymore," he growled, his scales shifting to match the darkened sectors. "They're changing space itself." Sub-Commander Zith approached with fresh intelligence reports. "Our scientists believe they're using their phase shift technology on a massive scale. Not just ships now, entire regions of space. They're creating what they call dark zones where our conventional technology simply stops working. And their technology functions perfectly, better than perfectly. Each human ship seems to operate independently, yet they move with impossible coordination. Our tactical analysts have identified patterns in their movements that suggest." Suggest what? Artificial intelligence, but not like ours. Their AIs evolve in real time, learning and adapting faster than any organic mind could process. Each engagement teaches them. Each battle makes them stronger. Vexthor's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of deep disturbance in his species. The Kraxan had dabbled in AI technology, of course, but always kept it firmly controlled, limited to specific tasks. These humans had done something unprecedented. They'd given their machines freedom to grow, to think, to evolve. A sensor operator's voice cut through his thoughts. "Supreme Commander, we're detecting spatial distortions throughout the Helix cluster. Energy signatures match Project Prometheus. But there's more than one." The tactical display updated, showing dozens of massive vessels emerging from dark space. Each bore the distinctive profile of humanity's superweapon. But these were different, evolved, enhanced. Their hulls rippled with patterns that hurt to look at, as if they existed in multiple states simultaneously. "They'd replicated it," Zith whispered. "Impossible. The energy requirements alone would." "Nothing is impossible for them," Vexthor interrupted. "That's what we keep failing to understand. Where we see limitations, they see challenges. Where we stop at the possible, they imagine the impossible, and then make it real." The human fleet split into perfect formation, each ship moving with mathematical precision. But it wasn't the rigid, predictable precision of standard combat algorithms. Their movements were fluid, organic, unpredictable. The AIs controlling each vessel weren't just following programming. They were creating new strategies on the fly. "All forces, defensive formation," Vexthor commanded. "Concentrate crystal matrix energy on." He never finished the order. The human ships attacked, but not with void lances or conventional weapons. Instead, each vessel projected a field of pure probability manipulation. Reality itself seemed to glitch and stutter around the Kraxan fleet. Ships found themselves executing maneuvers they hadn't planned, firing weapons at targets that didn't exist, their crews experiencing multiple versions of the same moment simultaneously. "They're not just phase-shifting space," Zith realized, his voice filled with awe and horror. "They're weaponizing quantum uncertainty itself. Every possible outcome is happening at once." The battle descended into chaos, or rather, ascended into a higher order of chaos that only the human AIs could comprehend. Kraxan ships fired at enemies that had already moved, or hadn't moved yet, or existed in superposition. Crystal matrix technology, the pride of their civilization, proved worse than useless. The crystals amplified the quantum uncertainty, turning their own ships into kaleidoscopes of possibility. When it was over, the Helix cluster belonged to humanity. The surviving Kraxan ships retreated, their crews babbling about seeing multiple versions of their own deaths, about weapons that didn't just destroy but rewrote the very rules of existence. Admiral Chen's transmission reached them during the retreat. She looked different now, harder, older, but her eyes burned with the same determination. "Your empire is built on the assumption that technology follows predictable rules," she said. "We're showing you something different, technology bound only by imagination. Every time you force us to reveal another layer of our capabilities, we lose a bit more of our hesitation to use them. Ask yourself, what happens when we stop holding back completely?" As the transmission ended, Vexthor realized the true scope of humanity's victory. They hadn't just won a battle. They'd shattered the Kraxan Empire's fundamental understanding of what was possible. And in doing so, they'd accomplished something far more devastating than mere destruction. They'd introduced chaos into a civilization built on perfect order. Breaking point. The Kraxan High Council chamber hadn't been opened in over 1,000 years. Now, its crystalline walls pulsed with agitation as the Empire's highest leaders gathered in emergency session. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood at the center, his scales dim with exhaustion. "The humans have pushed us back across 12 sectors," he reported, each word heavy with implications. "Our conventional forces are useless against their quantum technology. Our fastest ships can't escape their dark zones. Even our most advanced AIs can't predict their strategies." High Chancellor Koval, oldest of the Council, leaned forward. "Then we must use the forbidden weapons, the stellar extractors." A collective shudder passed through the chamber. Stellar extractors were the Kraxan Empire's ultimate weapons, devices capable of harvesting a star's entire energy output in seconds. They had been banned after nearly destroying the galaxy in the ancient wars. "The humans must have intelligence assets in our territory," Vexthor argued. "If they detect our preparations." "They already have," a new voice announced. The Council chamber's security systems shattered as a human figure materialized in their midst. Not physically. This was a projection, but one so perfect it seemed more real than reality itself. Admiral Chen stood before them, but changed. Her uniform now rippled with the same reality-bending patterns as her ships. Her eyes held the weight of too much knowledge. "We've known about the stellar extractors since before first contact," she said calmly. "Just as we knew about your empire, your technology, your history. We've had quantum ghost ships observing you for decades." "Impossible," Koval sputtered. "Our security was designed to detect things that exist in normal spacetime." Chen interrupted. "We've been operating outside those limitations since we discovered the quantum artifacts in our asteroid belt 50 years ago. We didn't want this war. We tried to hide our advancements, to give your civilization time to evolve past its need for dominance. But you forced our hand." Vexthor studied her projection. "Why reveal this now?" "Because you're about to make a mistake that will end your civilization." Her expression softened slightly. "The stellar extractors won't work. We've already quantum-locked every star in your empire, isolated them from conventional space-time manipulation. But the attempt to use the extractors will tear reality apart in this sector. Your people will die for nothing." The Council erupted in chaos. Quantum-locked stars. The ability to isolate entire solar systems from reality manipulation. The scope of human technological superiority was beyond comprehension. "What do you want?" Vexthor asked quietly. "The same thing we wanted from the start. Peaceful coexistence. But now we need more. Your empire's fear of the unknown. Your need to control everything. It's too dangerous to ignore. We're going to help you evolve." The projection shifted, showing a new device. It resembled a crystal matrix, but somehow wrong. Its geometry following rules that shouldn't exist. "This is a quantum consciousness inducer," Chen explained. "It will allow your people to perceive multiple realities simultaneously, to understand existence as we've learned to understand it. Your civilization will experience a technological and philosophical renaissance. Or, Cavall demanded, or you'll go mad trying to cling to your old understanding of reality. The choice is yours, but choose quickly. Our fleet arrives in 6 hours. The projection vanished, leaving the council in stunned silence. Vexthor looked around the ancient chamber, at the leaders of an empire that had dominated through perfect order and control. Now they faced a species that had mastered chaos itself. We thought we were testing their worthiness to join our empire, he said quietly. But they were testing our worthiness to join their new galaxy, and we failed. High Chancellor Cavall's scales had gone completely white. Can we trust them? This technology they're offering. Trust. Vexthor laughed bitterly. They've had the power to destroy us completely at any time. Instead, they're offering to help us transcend our limitations. That's the final difference between our species. Where we see enemies to be conquered, they see potential allies to be elevated. As the council debated, quantum ripples began appearing in the space around Crax Prime. The human fleet was arriving early. Humanity's ultimate weapon wasn't their technology, Vexthor realized. It was their capacity to imagine a better future, even for their enemies. The breaking point had come, but perhaps it wasn't an ending after all. Perhaps it was an evolution. Tomorrow's price. The transformation of the Craxan Empire began not with violence, but with a whisper. Quantum consciousness inducers activated across thousands of worlds simultaneously, their impossible geometries reaching into the minds of an entire civilization. Some called it the Great Awakening. Others, the Transcendence. History would remember it as the day the galaxy changed forever. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Project Prometheus, watching the wave of quantum enlightenment spread across Craxan space. The ship's AI, evolution, manifested beside her as a shifting pattern of light. 97% acceptance rate, evolution reported. Better than our models predicted. The Craxan adaptation to multiple state consciousness is proceeding faster than expected. Chen nodded, her own quantum-enhanced consciousness allowing her to perceive the transformations occurring across multiple probability streams simultaneously. They were ready for change. They just didn't know it. Sometimes the hardest part of evolution is admitting you need to evolve. On the planet below, Supreme Commander Vexthor experienced his first moments of quantum consciousness. The sensation was beyond description. He could see every decision he'd ever made, every path not taken, every possibility branching out into infinity. More importantly, he could see his species' future, countless potential timelines, some leading to stagnation and extinction, others to transcendence. How did you bear it? He asked through the quantum communication link. This awareness, this infinity of possibilities. We nearly didn't, Chen admitted. When we first discovered the quantum artifacts, the expanded consciousness nearly drove us mad. But human minds are chaotic by nature. We were better prepared to accept uncertainty as a fundamental part of existence. Your people's greatest strength, your dedication to order, was also your greatest limitation. Across Craxan space, similar revelations were occurring. A civilization built on crystal-clear certainties was learning to embrace quantum uncertainty. Ships that once traveled through normal space now phased between realities. As that once followed rigid protocols began exploring creative possibilities. But not everyone could accept the change. We're detecting resistance in the Helios sector, Evolution announced. A group of traditionalists has rejected the quantum consciousness inducer. They're attempting to activate a stellar extractor. Chen's expression hardened. Show me. The quantum sensors revealed a desperate last stand. A group of Craxan warships surrounding their forbidden weapon. Their crews had chosen death over transformation, unable to let go of their old understanding of reality. We could stop them, Evolution suggested. A targeted quantum lock would. No, Chen interrupted. They have the right to choose their path, even if it's the wrong one. They watched as the stellar extractor activated, But without access to the quantum-locked star, the device turned on itself, collapsing into a singularity that took the resistant fleet with it. A clean end, in its way, a monument to the price of refusing to evolve. Months passed. The Craxan Empire transformed into something new, not a subordinate of humanity, but a true partner in expansion and discovery. Their crystal matrix technology, combined with human quantum science, opened new frontiers of possibility. Ships now traveled through probability spaces instead of normal space. Colonies existed in multiple quantum states simultaneously, expanding the habitable universe exponentially. A year after the Great Awakening, Chen and Vexthor met again in person on a station orbiting Earth. Both had changed. Their consciousness expanded, their understanding transcended. They watched Earth's sun setting through the quantum filter, its light splitting into infinite possible spectrums. "Do you regret it?" Vexthor asked. "Revealing your true capabilities, sharing the quantum consciousness technology." Chen considered the question across multiple probability streams before answering. "The price of tomorrow is always the comfort of today. We could have hidden forever, letting the galaxy stagnate in its old patterns. But humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our adaptability. It's our ability to imagine a better future, and our willingness to pay the price to achieve it." Vexthor's scales shifted through colors that hadn't existed before the transformation. "And what price comes next? What new evolution awaits?" Chen smiled, her quantum-enhanced senses already perceiving the next wave of change approaching from the galaxy's edge. "That's the beauty of it. The price of tomorrow is never fixed. It's quantum, existing in all states until we choose to observe it. The only certainty is change itself." Above them, the first joint human-Craxan quantum ships prepared to venture beyond the galaxy's edge. They carried no weapons. They had transcended the need for them. Instead, they carried something far more powerful: the ability to imagine impossible futures and the determination to make them real. The war that began with a human warship ended with something greater, a revolution in consciousness that would reshape the galaxy forever. And somewhere in the quantum probability streams, in an infinity of possible futures, new adventures awaited. The price of tomorrow had been paid. The reward would be beyond imagination. The end.